Okay, now we're live.
Oh.
And I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in to the Let's Talk Fishing video podcast. Tonight, I have a very special guest, a guy whose name has become synonymous with ice fishing, a guy by the name of Todd. But first, I'd like to tell you about the Garden State Outdoors Sports Show, which is going to take place January 6th through 9th of 2022 at the New Jersey Convention and Exposition Center, and that's in Edison, New Jersey. Also, I'm very proud to announce the Northern Illinois Sports and Outdoors Show, which will take place January 13th through 16th. That's 4 days of sports shows, guys, of 2022 at the Lake County Fairgrounds, and that's in Greenville, Illinois. Now, without further ado, now it's time to talk to Todd. How are you doing tonight, Todd?
Doing good. I appreciate everybody being patient with me. As the guys at work say, especially the younger guys, I'm the analog guy living in the digital world. And it only took the help of my IT director, my wife, and 2 different laptops for me to get connected to speak to you in, 14 minutes late. And, my motto is, and my kids even, have the motto down pat. If you're on time, you're late. Early is on time. Last week at the St. Paul Ice Show, I told my son we're going to leave at 5:30, and he figured, okay, it's a couple hundred miles, this and that. He says, we're not going to make it at 10 o'clock. And I said, yeah, you're right. We better leave at 5 o'clock. And my daughter came from Iowa State to the St. Paul Ice Show to work with us in the clam booth, and she beat us there. So
wow,
it's kind of upsetting for me to be 15 minutes late this evening.
Yeah. Well, but you're here. That's what's important. That's what's, we were talking a little bit before the show. You were talking about seasons under the ice, which I think is fascinating.
Yes. Where I live in the banana belt here, Illinois, southern Wisconsin, we don't really have the 3 distinct seasons as they do up north. We don't, typically, 20 inches of ice in the Wisconsin side, and even less. The most I've ever seen here in Illinois in, say 30 years of ice fishing would probably be about 18, and that would be max. You put some snow on there, you're not going to get light penetration, no light penetration, you're not going to have any green weeds. But many years when we're fishing locally, even Delavan, we have green weeds we can fish year round. And those green weeds, they're going to hold oxygen. They're going to hold the microscopic organisms. They're going to hold the bait fish and everything else that's feeding on them. But when you move up north and you're talking 3 feet, maybe of ice and a bunch of snow. I mean, you lived in Alaska. How many feet of ice did you have there?
We had to have an extension on our auger, and I'm going to estimate over 5 feet.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say easily, but yeah, because usually on a standard, if you were running a gas auger, you're between 42 and 48 inches, just on the standard flighting without an extension.
Yeah, and it's hard to use an extension when you already have 3 feet ice on top of the snow. It's. I did not enjoy ice fishing up there. We had 45 degrees below zero, and even, the wind whipping around, coming right into our tent, even with the propane heater, it was, and 5 feet ice to catch 6-inch long trout. I mean, come on.
Yeah. I'm not a fan of trout, so you wouldn't find me ice fishing there in Alaska.
And trout don't even taste as good as, bluegills, crappies, perch.
Walleye.
Yeah. All those.
Yeah. So, I mean, that seasonal pattern that they have up north, you will catch early ice and late ice. The fish do move into the shallows. But even right now in Minnesota, as the ice is building, you can find schools of crappie over 20, 30 feet of water. They're not like here. We don't even have a lot of deep water here in Illinois, in northern Illinois. We don't have the 40 feet that's common in a lot of lakes in throughout Minnesota.
Yeah, that's true. 20, 30 feet, and that's only one spot in the whole lake, usually right next to the dam.
Yeah, and here, on the Fox chain, there's a couple deep holes on Channel Lake where the crappies will school up kind of on the north end of the lake. But for the most part, we don't have that winter pattern. So those guys are happy out in front of Choppers, right off of 173 Choppers Bar. Great place, always good to stop in there, get a bowl of chili, glass of pop, maybe a beer, and they'll let you park there right there on 173, walk right across the road, and you're fishing 4 to 6 feet of water on bluegills and crappie.
I've been there, done that, man.
Have you?
Yeah.
That's
I haven't done a whole lot of ice fishing, but that's one of the things I have done. It's kind of fun to walk into the bar, have a cold brew, then go out and sit on the cold ice. Yeah.
Or come back in and have a nice bowl of chili.
Yes.
Yeah, that the Fox chain, there's 15 lakes. It's a 45-mile river system starting, at the border of Wisconsin and going all the way down to the McHenry Dam. But you're not ice fishing the river, especially on most years.
No,
it's open. So
and the rivers are a whole different ball of wax when you're.
Yeah, this year it's kind of disheartening for us right here in Illinois. We have extremely mild temperatures. We don't have any ice. Typically, the first weekend in December, I'm already fishing the back channels of the Fox chain, all the boat channels, like very popular. Most people know Nielsen's channel.
Sure.
And Herman's Low Life Bar, I believe it is right there, that most of the outdoor riders in the Chicagoland area, that's one place they blast right away. But today was, I think, high of 45. I don't know, tomorrow maybe be 60. We might have some rain coming. So you're going to have to head north. But to head north, the ice even up north isn't good. They were just starting to build ice mid-state Wisconsin, kind of around the Highway 8 that divides the state. That's kind of the Wisconsin-Mason-Dixon line. They,
sure.
Upwards of 13 plus inches and even more, all the way to Duluth.
Wow. 13 plus inches ice already.
No, snow on top of the little bit of ice that they had.
Oh, that's horrible.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you right. My goodness, that's horrible. Jeez.
Yeah.
Talk about a deadly deception.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, look, it's going to be, it's, oh, man, no.
Yeah.
I've fallen through a few times, it was never fun.
Yeah, today, I just looking here at the weather. Today's high was 50. It's currently 46. So, tomorrow's 64, Thursday 63, and then it dips, but, be in the 30s and teens at night. But, we're a long ways off. I don't know if this is an El Nino and an El Nina or just
part of a natural system somehow.
Yeah.
It happens. Every once in a while we got a year like that. And then also we got years where, I remember one time having at least 18 inches ice on Shabbat because we had to go and get a longer chainsaw to cut through it to drop rocks in.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
One of our rock fests,
just ice safety. I don't have them around my neck this evening. Couldn't bring everything in from the barn, but ice picks. If you go through, you got to have ice picks.
Well, I worked out on the waterways. I worked up in Illinois for 17 years with the United States Geological Survey. And, I was always out on the ice, and those ice picks saved my life a couple of times. It was the only way I was going to get out. They tell you don't ever go out on the ice alone. Oh, God, no, don't ever go out on the ice alone.
Yeah, but, people, they just can't get out. They usually, you don't drown, you freeze to death because they can't get out. Even with the float suit's going to keep you up, but you can't get out. Having those picks, dig them in, kick your feet. There's plenty of great videos. You can YouTube Adam Walton. Great guy, lives right over the border in Wisconsin. He's a fireman and does a lot of good videos and training with the fire department, I believe, in Koshkanon for that.
Yeah. I can't. I've been on the ice all my life. I can't stress that enough.
So, tell you, we got
okay. JCX Fishing, which is one of my good friends, John Stoutinger, just said, "Great advice, guys."
So I don't know how we hold up the camera. This is a new the smallest Tikka Minnow from Clam Outdoors.
Okay.
And this basically just a jigging hard bait that, you might use one that's 4 or 5 inches long for walleyes on Lake Erie or anywhere for that matter. But they're making them smaller and smaller for bluegills and crappie.
So what is that called, Todd?
A Tikka Minnow.
Tikka Minnow.
And all metal, no plastic, nothing to break like on some other baits. Yeah, just phenomenal bait, for that reaction strike. And it's very, I think, rewarding when you're using a bait like this, to catch bluegill and crappie, than just you maybe using a tip down with a minnow or a waxworm.
We have a question for you. It says, I have not been ice fishing often, but what is your go-to setup?
That's one thing about me, being a professional ice fisherman. I travel all over the country. This year in February, I actually flew to Idaho to Cascade Lake to catch those giant 2-pound perch. So nothing, I'm roaming. So I use things that I represent and that I believe in. I'm not, having custom rods made for me. I'm going to the store and, like here, a great sponsor of ours, Cold Snap Outdoors, with his Red Line series, this medium light. I'm getting in front of the camera. Just a phenomenal rod. Retails for $50. And you can even spend a lot less than that and have a off-the-shelf rod. So you go into a retailer, and most of the associates at some of your big box stores or even mom and pop, they can set you up relatively inexpensive. The main thing you're going to need is an auger. That's probably going to be your biggest expense right off the bat, is purchasing an auger. From there, then a fishing pole, you can get them as cheap as probably $7. And then it's the ability of the angler. It's not just that, oh, geez, I have a $100 rod and a $100 reel, which I don't have any $100 reels, and bring plenty of fish topside. So, sure. And can you restate that question?
It says, I have not been ice fishing often, but what is your go-to setup? So
the go-to setup, any one of the, here's another Red Line rod from Cold Snap. Probably my go-to setup, because I'm a bluegill fisherman. Occasionally I'm lucky and catch a crappie. Would probably be the drop kick, this right here.
Okay.
Right there. That probably is my number one bait. And on there, I would probably use a white Mackie.
A white Mackie. Okay,
yep.
We have another question, Todd.
Yeah, and the white Mackie, this here, you can see what little plastic baits, all hand poured. That's what they look like. And most seasons, I won't even purchase any maggots or waxworms.
Wow. This guy, we have another question. He says, what is your go-to on finicky bluegill?
Plastics. The nice thing about plastics are you can change size, shape, and color. You have a jig, you got one color of jig. You can maybe go to a smaller jig. The big thing now, and actually not the big thing, probably the last 15 years, is tungsten. Fish is a little heavier. You can get a smaller jig that weighs more. And then, you couple that with some plastics, and you can even modify. So like here you have this creature bait that has 5 legs. If you want to finesse fish it, you could rip some of those legs off. You could rip the upper body half. If you wanted, you could rip one of the tentacles off and just hook that. And if the fish are real finicky, go find the biters.
Sure. So move around, huh?
Oh yes, go find the biters, another part of the lake. Maybe change depths 10 foot, 20 foot. Move in, move out, inside the weeds, outside the weeds, in the weeds.
We have another question here. It says, what is the best bluegill fishery you have been to?
That's pretty tough. Minnesota has some awesome lakes in Otter Tail County, and that is over on the western portion of the state off 94. But North Dakota, got a buddy Clay Huell up there, runs CZ Guide Service, and he has some monsters on there up at Lake Metagoshi.
So would that be CGH Huell, Houle?
Yeah, Clay Huell.
Okay, he asked that question.
He bit. he got a plug even out of me for his guide service. Yes, I've driven there 3 times now to catch a 2-pound bluegill, and
Jeez.
Yes, I mean,
How long? Bluegill. How long is a 2-pound bluegill?
I wouldn't know. Never caught one.
Oh. I thought you were leading up to that. You had.
Okay. No, I've driven there 3 times. It's 1,000 miles each way.
Sure.
So I've driven, 6,000 plus miles to catch one of these 2-pound bluegills, and they're finicky.
I wonder if this guy Clay Huell has caught a 2-pound.
And our buddy Clayton Davis, Chet Martell, a couple of the guys that live in the area, they have, and there's definitely some Kongs there. You got the right time, right place. It's just some places you go to swing for the fences. And the nice thing in February, when we went to Cascade Lake in Idaho, you could catch a 2-pound perch. And it wasn't that you were just going to catch one. If you were there for a couple of days, they were plentiful.
Wow. Clay just answered me. He said 11.5 to 12 inches to be a 2-pound bluegill.
Yeah. Clay's got a wonderful operation. He's got sleeper houses. So if you'd like to sleep out on the lake, there's
wow.
Yeah. So you can catch walleyes, not just bluegill and crappies with his guide service.
I think that was Rainy Lake. I did that on
a sleeper house.
Yeah, I slept in the lake and it was nice and warm, and they brought us dinner and a few beers. They didn't bring us enough beer, but they brought us a few.
Yeah, that's matter of fact. There's a good buddy of mine, Gene Paul.
Man, I'm sorry about this. We're losing them.
And Lake. So.
Okay, Todd, can you understand me?
That's what he does day in and day out. I'm good. I'm here. Everything's good.
Okay, yeah, we only got about every other word when you were talking about that.
Okay. But I was just saying, JP, he's up there at Lake of the Woods. I think everybody got a picture of that.
Yeah. JP, now we can see that picture.
Yeah. That's every day he's out there. Gene Paul chasing them big pike that roam in there. A lot of giant pike in Lake of the Woods.
Yes, fun.
And the nice thing, like you stayed in a sleeper house, you don't know what you're going to catch. You could catch an eel pout, giant pike,
burbits, yeah.
Yes. Cisco or the whitefish, which would be a tullaby. They're great to smoke. Perch. The Lake of the Woods is a unique fishery.
Yes.
So the bluegills in between North Dakota and that western Minnesota, Iowa, Lake Okoboji, it's got some very nice fish. Overall quality is decent at Okoboji. Spirit Lake, Iowa, they call that the Iowa Great Lakes, made by the glaciers. Ryan Hale runs a guide business out there, good buddy of mine. He's running a tournament, which is unique because this tournament, it's bluegills only, and it's a single man event. That's going to be, I believe, February 5th at Okoboji. And I'm probably going to be there.
Good for you, man. That'd be
So,
fun.
the Sandhill Lakes in Nebraska. They got in Valentine, Nebraska. Don Cox, Mullins, Nebraska. That's his stomping grounds. That's where he's outdoor writer. Oh, Mark Strand.
Yeah.
Mark Strand. Yes, I think he might have a 2-pound bluegill out of there.
Wow.
Back from 20 some odd years ago, fishing with Dave Gens out there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have they modified the live scope technology for ice fishing applications yet?
Oh yes, everybody's on board with that. It's a phenomenal tool. But then again, you got to be willing to work.
Yes.
Yes,
absolutely.
to actively chase the fish. You still can't make the bite, but I mean, especially if you want to catch crappies in the basin, you drop it down, you can set it for 60 feet, you start spinning it around, you see the fish, and if they're 60 feet out, exactly, walk out 60 feet, drill that hole, and hopefully you don't spook them. I think 2 seasons ago, the crappie professor, I know he's been on your show, good buddy of mine.
Yeah, Jim Copter's a good buddy of mine too, man. I've known him for 25 years.
We were fishing a lake that has some big crappies. The biggest crappie we've caught out of this lake was 18 inches, weighed 3 pounds, 10 ounces. And we think, we got the live scope now. We're going to pinpoint these fish. Well, guess what? Every time we pinpointed them, they scattered. It was neat just to see how fish react to noise, because I've always been of, the fish aren't that smart. It doesn't matter. And even over 20, 30 feet of water, we would drill a hole and these schools of crappies would just gone.
Wow. Okay, we have another question. He said, what's the best bluegill rod you can use from Cold Snap?
The best, you know what? That's a personal preference depending on bait. I don't like to paint myself in the corner, and I don't want to give anybody advice like that. Everything is, for me, it's a match set. So I see a lot of rods and reels that come with line at your big box store. Well, that's like baling wire. And you're not even going to get bite detection because your lure is so light, and you're not going to put a 1/4 ounce or 3/8 jig to go fish bluegills. So fishing these smaller jigs, whether it's a 32nd ounce or 3 millimeter, 4 millimeter tungsten, you want the lightest line available for your application. So I typically run 2-pound on most of my rods. I have one that's set up with one, and I might have 3 or 4 in others, but I run a medium light, a 28-inch this here, and this red line series. It's got these giant guides. They're fly guides that when you get a little bit of water in there, they don't freeze up. You can see the big
Look at that.
Yeah.
That is big.
Yeah, big diameter. So that makes especially when you're outside hole hopping, if you're in the shanty and you got the heat on, or even if you don't have the heat on, you're not going to have as big a problem as you're reeling up and down, especially if you're catching fish. The water comes off your line, it slings all over, and then it freezes. So with those bigger guides, it keeps you fishing a little bit longer. And then, you usually just give it a tap on your Vexilar and the ice comes flying off. But that 28-inch medium light is all around pretty good rod. It's not that long where I can fish it in a house, or if I'm kneeling or sitting on a bucket.
Okay.
So, and I typically don't fish in a house. I dress for the weather. For many, many years, we've had windproof, waterproof suits. I mean, even if you had Carhartt, put some rain gear over it. That's going to keep the wind off you, and it's going to keep you dry if you're kneeling, especially, or fall down.
Yeah, that happens.
But I have one friend that has some nice rain gear, and he just puts it over his other outdoor wear, and keeps him warm and dry.
Nice.
Especially if you're not going to fish all the time. That's, it can be just like anything. I suppose it's like golf clubs. You could spend thousands and thousands of dollars on golf clubs, but if you're only golfing 3 times a year, you probably go down to the Salvation Army and get yourself a set that'll do just fine.
Sure. So what are your plans for this year? You have a lot of trips planned?
With the bad ice conditions, and this is show season, a lot of us guys that been around a long time in the business, you're doing a lot of retail events. The world's largest ice show in St. Paul was last weekend. That's 3 days. Put in a holiday or two. This year's just been kind of jumbled. Normally I'm fishing by Thanksgiving. I stayed home this year. I had some stuff going on at home. And the week before that, I went on a sea duck hunt. I went to Ocean City, Maryland, went and hunted sea ducks, some surf scooters out about 2 miles in the ocean. So, I don't know. I just, I'm a little behind the 8 ball on getting ready. I suppose if somebody called me, said there was a hot bite with 2-pound bluegills, I could probably be out the door in about 15 minutes.
Sure. Well, your buddy Clay
it would be just like this, and we're gone.
Yeah, you just grab your Vexilar, huh?
And I was told to log off the computer first.
Okay. Your friend Clay just made a comment. He said, Todd is the man with a lot of knowledge. I used to watch him when I was younger. Now we got a bond and we are best friends.
Oh, yeah. On my way to Saskatchewan to go waterfowl hunting, I always stop by and say hi, and we always have things to trade, whether I have some goose gyros or he's got some pheasant sausage. Yeah, Clay's a great friend, and he's coming along as a business owner and a guide and a promoter. It's neat to see the younger generation, being over 50, to see the next generation and how they're going to grow the sport. Preservation of the sport is huge, because so often, and you are older than me, and I mean, if you remember the older fellas, no matter what it was, even some of the guys that you see on television that are in their 70s now, what they put on the wall or went home in buckets.
Yes, they did. They used to bring, man, I can remember going up northern Wisconsin with my dad when I was a boy, and man, we kept every fish we caught, we kept.
Yeah. And
I'm talking the 1970s,
Mm-hmm. And guys in the 60s, you see those guys back in the day, and I imagine they probably regretted those, those 10 to 20 pound northern pike and the stringers they had.
Or even Al Linder, Mr. Conservation. You see pictures of him back in the 70s, and he's sitting there holding a muskie like this, or some of those guys got a muskie in each hand.
So and that's kind of who I was referring to. A lot of those famous people. I wasn't going to mention any names, but this younger generation and the tools and the knowledge that they have. So it ain't just that they can catch the fish; they understand about preservation. So, like fishing with Clay, and some of the guys in that neighborhood. When we first got up to North Dakota, maybe 10 years ago. A lot of those bluegills, even a 2-pounder, that wasn't going on the wall. That was going in their belly. And I'm like, oh, you can't be killing them 2-pounders.
No.
It ain't so much about genetics. Bluegills, what happens is, when they can reach their sexual maturity early, and then they only grow to that size. So that, people say, oh, the genetics. Well, if that fish is 10 years old and it reached its sexual maturity at 5, well, it's already had 5 years of putting tens of thousands of eggs and those genetics in there. But the problem is when you're taking those big males off the nest, the little ones sneak in, eat the eggs, and then they just start decreasing in size.
Okay.
So, but I kind of have a rule of thumb. Anybody that fishes with me, if it's 9 inches or bigger, a bluegill, it goes back. And I also have that same rule of thumb with crappies. It depends on the body of water, but when you start hitting that 13 mark, it's already made it past, a lot of predation from, say, a northern pike or bass or man. So that 13-inch crappie is a lot closer to 15 inches than maybe the 11 inches that, you could take home and eat. And one thing, when people are over harvesting, think of it this way, just say, especially the guys that poach, but even non-poachers, you kept 30 crappie. A fish has 2 sides. That's 60 fillets. How much do you need?
Yep.
Just meat hogging. So that, yeah. Clay's got her down. He's got her down. It just, so he's got the tools to catch the fish and to leave some for tomorrow. Congratulations, Clay. He just had a baby girl, his second child.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's fresh out of the oven. So congratulations, Clay.
Wow.
And
A lot of sleepless nights.
Yes.
My kids are graduating from college now, so. We have another comment. I don't know what it says. It's from the Wet and Wild group. I don't know.
Wet and Wild. Yes. Wet and Wild Outfitters is a great group of guys. One in particular, Trevor, who runs a kayak business every day, 7 days a week. And then when the water freezes, he runs a guide business on ice. And the kid's just full throttle. His top-notch service, all quality, new gear to put you, have a good time on the water, whether it's on kayak or on the ice. And
Wet and Wild group just said favorite place to fish in Illinois. I'm sure that means your favorite place to fish in Illinois.
I can't tell you. Do I have to tell you?
Tell you.
I grew up fishing Shabana as a kid.
Sure.
I mean, as a kid, going back in, to the late 70s, and in the 80s, I used to drive there. I think it was 53 miles after school on a Wednesday. Every Wednesday, my buddy and I, we'd hop in a car and we'd go out to Shabana fishing. And I fished it for years through the ice and never caught anything. But our good friend Jim Coptro, he helped me. So, I tell you, the quality of fish, there's maybe a place with bigger fish, but the numbers are there. And
also there's a favorite place, or the most popular place, which is probably the Fox Chain.
Yeah. The Fox Chain, and you got Petite, Marie, Pistaki, Channel, Catherine, so you do have quite a variety, whether you're looking for species, depth, some of the scenery, there's a few places where you can catch fish and get away from the people because, Channel Lake can get pretty crowded.
It sure can. Yeah. It can get very, very crowded. My favorite place to fish in Illinois, there were several private farm ponds that I caught fish in that I would go to every year.
Oh yeah. I mean, so, but they're private, so when somebody's going to ask me, where do I like to fish or what's my favorite, I don't want to say that. I mean, I have access to those. A few years ago, Jason Mitchell was doing an article for one of the magazines in Illinois, and he called me up and, we did an article and a segment for that, but, fishing the borrow pits off the interstate.
Oh yeah.
There's borrow pits at every highway junction because that's where the soil comes from. They borrowed it to make the on and off ramp in the overpass. It takes a little bit of research and a line in the water because some of those are left and the fish are stunted. You'll see bass that are 14 inches long and they got these eyes that are the size of saucers and distended stomachs because there's nothing to eat.
Yes.
And then you'll go to the next one and, you'll catch maybe a 7-pound largemouth, and if the farmer managed it, might have perch. It just hit or miss, whatever you're doing, it's just being outside and enjoying the elements and, what God gave us, as far as a specific body of water.
Absolutely. Hey, Todd, do you have any shout outs you'd like to make?
Cold Snap, it's home of the T2 toothpick.
What's a T2 toothpick?
It's a hook remover that we come up with. And, when even if you're fishing open water and that hook gets stuck in that bluegill or crappie, you're going to grab a pair of pliers and you bought a jig. And some of these jigs now are $5 a piece and it's got nice paint. Well, that forcep or pliers, you just knock the paint off that. Okay. And remember growing up, you had a hook to gorger.
Yes.
Maybe a small end. Well, you go down there and you turn it and you rip the gills. Now you just killed the fish. So this here, what happens is if this is just like it's stuck on the rod, there we go. Everything's a little backwards. You can just go down there like that and unhook it. Wrong way. If it's hooked on the eyelet, can you see on the eye there, Jay?
Yeah.
You can and it comes off the eye. So you're going to save your lure and the mortality of the fish. Cold Snap's got a lot of good things. A lot of ice rods, especially the newer ones, they don't have reel seats. They went with this golf handle, like this wind grip, or there's cord. Yeah. So there's bands on there. And these reel bands from Cold Snap to hold it on instead of using tape, because tape, it gets cold, it gets nasty. Electrical tape, there's a sticky residue. I mean, in somebody that's got a nice cork handle or had a custom made rod, you're just ruining it, and then you can't see it. There's a guy in Indiana named Adam Bricker that makes phenomenal rods. He's not a rod assembler. He's a rod builder and a craftsman. And when you look at what he does, why would you want to cover that up with electrical tape?
Yes. We have another comment from the Wet and Wild group. He said toothpick works great for walleye, smallmouths, crappies, bluegill, and you can save plenty of pricey tungstens with it.
Yeah, we actually have two sizes. This is the panfish size, and we do have a game fish size. So if a guy's throwing a jigging pig, and that 6-pound bass eats it, it's buried down to get that out.
Okay.
Just totally lost my train of thought.
Okay. Do you have any other shout outs?
I'm just Mackey Plastics, Clam, Vexlar, I'm lucky to be with those guys. I think a couple of them, this is probably my 14th year.
Wow.
That just a great team, and to be involved in growing the sport.
Yes.
It's about education. It's just not about, selling product. Just that, So, yeah, there was something I was going to tell Wet and Wild Outdoors, and just kind of, just kind of. Oh, as far as, using that hook remover, anybody that uses tungsten jigs, they may have had this happen. So on the educational side, that tungsten melts at over 6,000 degrees. So that wire hook's going to melt probably about 500 or 600 degrees. So that's glued or soldered on. So a lot of times when that hook is stuck in the fish's mouth, the guy goes down there with his pliers and he's trying to rip it out. You'll bust the tungsten off the hook.
Oh no!
And now your jig is junk. Yeah. So there's many uses. I mean, I've even used it to turn the Johnsonvilles on the grill while we're fishing.
I could see that. Yeah.
Yes. So.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I could see that. Well, hey, Todd, I know. Okay, go ahead.
I was just curious if you could tell me a little bit about this Northern Illinois Sports and Outdoor Show.
Yeah, it's going to be, it's up there at the Lake County Fairgrounds in Grays Lake, Illinois.
Has that been running for a while? Because I kind of remember.
It ran for a couple of years. And then, of course, last year there were no sports shows because of the pandemic. There are going to be a lot of people there that like Jim Copcho is going to be there. Pat Harrison's going to be there. Jerry Costabile going to be there. He's a Lake Michigan charter boat captain. The Goose is going to be there.
The Goose. Who's the Goose?
Goose is a 13-year-old autistic boy who qualified for a national tournament this year, National Bass Trail.
Nice.
And the outdoors community has actually banded together to send him to that national tournament because, his father's like, how am I going to do this? Well, a lot of people, a lot of different organizations and companies and individuals got together and, said, we're going to get you there. He's
Awesome.
going to be there. Ted Takasaki, Mary Ann Husker. Geez.
Now, are they? And who runs that show?
Outdoor Sports Group.
The Outdoor Sports Group. So
Yes.
There's a way to contact them if somebody wanted to have a booth.
Yes, contact Jim Grant.
Oh, Jim Grant from Grant Rods.
Yes, exactly. He's their chairman of the board.
Yeah, got a few of them in the barn. That I think they're president. I don't know if they're presidents. I don't know. I'm not much of an open water guy, but I know I got a few Grant Rods. I love them.
You got a few Grant Rods, man. Yeah, those are. I have a few of them as well, and they're awesome. I can't say enough about them. I cannot say enough about those rods. I love them. I absolutely love them. From catching redfish to right down to catching bluegills. 30-pound redfish. I don't have to worry about that thing breaking the rod. That's a lot of fun doing battle with something like that and actually being able to battle it and not have to, keep loosening my drag and, hoping that the rod doesn't break. It's most of the stuff I use for surf fishing. It's junk because I buy junk to go surf fishing because it's going to be dunked in salt water, all day long. I'm not taking an expensive rod out to do that with.
Yeah.
But
so so I hope to have a good season here starting soon, getting the crew together and taking some weekend trips. I know Ice Team University, it's sponsored by Clam. This is not a guide trip. This is an educational event that starts on a Thursday and ends on Sunday, and it's all inclusive. They could get more information at clam.com. You could type in Ice Team University. And from Thursday to Friday, everything's included: meals, lodging, in on-ice instruction, and classroom. And you have some of your top professionals, ice fishing professionals, there to assist you. Even if you don't have gear, we can supply the gear. I've been involved with this probably since about maybe 2005 even. And this year it's going to be in the Detroit Lakes area, and it's no better place really for panfish all around, whether it's perch, bluegill, or crappie.
Oh, so you said for more information about the Ice Team University, go to the Clam Outdoors website?
Yep, or they could Google Ice Team University, and I don't know if there's any availability, but like I said, it's all inclusive, and the more people that come with you, the cheaper it is.
Okay. I just put that up about.
Oh, sweet. Very nice. So that's probably one of my stops. I have a good buddy, Craig Euler, in Rapid City, South Dakota. There's a boys club, and every year he has a function where they take the boys from the boys club fishing.
Okay.
And that is really neat. This is a special event because there's about 60 pros from, I don't know, at least 11 states in Canada, and we all come there on our own dime.
I think you told me about that before. Yeah, that sounds like a great event.
Yes, so that's real neat. As things pop up in the old Rolodex, what's going on this winter? I'm just kind of play it by ear. If Lake Erie gets ice, I know that's going to be, one of those things that within 5 minutes I'm out the door.
With 100 million walleyes estimated, yeah. I don't blame you.
That's a unique fishery, so that's on the docket. So just kind of wherever the wind takes me. This past weekend, I was at Cabela's in Hammond, Indiana, and I heard Chad Penderhill was doing a seminar at a bait shop. It was 140 miles away. So when I got done working at Cabela's, I drove 140 miles, another time zone, to basically the Ohio state line to hang out with some other ice fishing buddies I hadn't seen in a while.
Wow.
So it's just kind of wherever it takes me. I got up in the morning and then drove another 80 miles into Michigan to Knutson's bait shop to pick up some ice fishing gear. And then from there, I hauled tail back for a couple 100 miles back to Hammond so I could work Sunday all day in the store.
Wow.
So that's kind of my best thing when I'm out ice fishing. And if I've got the availability and time, and, whether, if I was fishing, I got a buddy, Brad Moen, up by Stevens Point, Wisconsin. And if I'm fishing with him and then somebody says, oh, the fish are at La Crosse or Stoddard. And I say, well, Brad, thanks for the crappie bite. I'm going to catch perch and bluegill on the Mississippi.
One thing the Wet and Wild group just asked is any good derbies coming up in Illinois?
For 14 years, Brent Beckwith and I've helped him with Walk on Water Cancer Derby, a benefit. In them 14 years, we've raised $97,000 that we gave back to the community directly, just a grassroots effort. We're thinking about bringing it back.
Good for you guys. Good for you guys. You can never go wrong giving back.
No. I wasn't going to say anything, but Wet and Wild trying to pry some information out of me. But other than that, I'm not a derby or tournament fisherman anymore.
Okay.
So,
well, hey, Todd, I'd like to thank you for coming on the show. I know you're a very busy man. And I certainly enjoy having you every time I've had you on the show.
Yeah, I hopefully we could circle back at the end of February. At any time, if you want to know what's biting where once this gets going, because people are just very cautious right now with all that snow and the lack of ice. So it's the freight train ain't rolling. It hasn't really left the station yet as far as ice fishing's concerned this year.
Okay, well, you're always welcome on my show, Todd. Just contact me. I'd be happy to have you on. I'm sure we're definitely going to do maybe a mid-season ice show and then a wrap up, so that you can tell people what's going on and what happened.
And maybe you could tell your friend Jim Grant that maybe he should start making some ice rods because there's a market.
Sure. Actually, stick around after the show.
Yep.
Stick around after the show. I'd like to talk to you about that.
All right. Thanks for having me, and everybody have a Merry Christmas.
Yeah. Thank you, Todd. Thank you. I'd like to thank everybody for listening or for tuning into the Let's Talk Fishing video podcast. In closing, I'd like to tell you again about the Garden State Outdoor Sports Show, which will take place from January 6th through 9th of 2022 at the New Jersey Convention and Exposition Center. That's in Edison, New Jersey. The Northern Illinois Sports and Outdoor Show is going to take place January 13th through the 16th of 2022. That's at the Lake County Fairgrounds, which is in Grays Lake, Illinois. Go on into the Northern Illinois Sports Show. Go on into Grant Rods booth. Tell them Jay sent you, and they're going to put some fantastic rods in your hands. And with that, I'm going to bid everybody a good night.